making shutters today. So what I'm working on now is the shutters for the windows. They're gonna be cedar, as you can see this pile here. I'm only putting them on these two outside windows there. If you can see them two windows, and then these three windows in the front here. Because the back windows, the side window on the other sides, you wouldn't put a shutter on it, and neither would you do one by the kitchen sink and bathroom. That's the only one you do, which eyeball I'm only doing the front. Got a trailer load, as you can see, but people was clearing some land to build some more room for the cemetery. My dad stopped by because he seen a big pile of cedars out there, and he asked if he could have them. They said sure. We went out there. And I'll throw a picture up right here of the trunks of the cedars we cut when we went and got them. Took them to our guy who did the rough cut for these, and he cut all those up. You know, that B-roll you just seen of the cedar, he cut all that up for $65. Can't beat it. So that's what we're doing. I cut a few here already. 4 wide is exactly half the width. I mean, those come out to exactly half the width of this window, 4 wide. But 4 just looked a little too wide for me, so 3 looked good. So that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna get all of them cut for each side first, and then I'll go back and put the pieces across. So what I'm gonna do is, like, here's 3 of them. So there's 3 of them. Obviously they're not lined up, they're a little off. But anyway, you get the gist. I'm gonna put 1 at the bottom, 1 in the middle, and then 1 toward the top. And so I'll go back and cut those pieces later. I was gonna set up my phone on my little tripod. I have a tripod that holds it, and do a time lapse, but I forgot it. I'm also gonna sand them down before I put them together. That's another reason why I'm not putting them together today. I'm gonna sand. I like the rough cut look, but I'm gonna sand it with my sander a little bit. I'm not gonna take the saw marks all the way down. I'm just gonna smooth it out just a little bit, and then I'm gonna seal them off. So let me get these pieces cut out. One of my favorite parts about this is the smell. These 1x4, I forgot to mention, these are 1x4s that we had cut. When we first got them cut and stacked on the trailer, man, you could smell them just standing, and you can still smell them just standing here, but it was really strong when they were fresh. Man, the smell of cedar, I love the smell of cedar. So I propped my phone up against the porch rail and managed to get a little time lapse. If I could keep what little bit I could keep my dog out of the picture, so it turned out a little blurry because it was focusing on him running back and forth in front of it. But anyway, this cedar, it's got a lot of purple in it, especially when first got it cut, and as it dried out a little bit, it got this, what you would consider cedar color, like the standard, cedar color. But a lot of it, even dry, has some purple tint. I'm trying to keep it pretty uniform, so I'm kind of picking the side that looks more of the darker, like cedar color, at least for a whole piece. And then if I get down to the end, and some of them are their whole sides, both of them is purple. I'm trying to kind of get them to match each shutter kind of the same. And if I get to a different window, if it's all purple, that's fine, it's uniform. But I'm just trying to keep it as uniform as possible. And I make sure I cut from the back side so that there's no little chips and stuff, which this one ain't bad anyway, but sometimes you get chips on the side you cut from. But so I'm back on the cedar shutters. I cut all them long pieces with a skill saw. I forgot I even had my miter saw. I didn't think about using my miter saw. It was in the shop. So to cut all these 30 cross pieces, I decided to break it out and cut a little bit on that, so it'd be a lot faster. So I'm gonna get all these little short pieces cut out real quick, and kind of show you what I'm working with when I get done. So I got all my pieces cut out, and this is what I'm working with. I'm gonna do 3 cross pieces, top and bottom. about 2 inches from the edge, and then one dead center in the middle. And that's what it'll look like right there, hanging beside that there window. Think it'll look good. So the next part of this, what I'm gonna do is just take my sander and just skim it, just to knock some of the rough off, like mostly like the burrs on the edges mainly, like that. I'm going to assemble it just like this, pop pop, with some finishing nails. Probably gonna go through the back just so you don't see the nails. I don't know, the nails give it kind of a rustic look too, but I ain't made my mind up yet. I got some scrap pieces here I'm gonna nail to see whether I need 1 3/4 or 1.5 nails. And then so it doesn't go all the way through. And then I'll also look and see what the nails look like, see, you know, what I want to do as far as just nailing it from the back to hide the nails completely, or nailing it from the front. Y'all see what I decided once I get it all nailed together. I cut all that jazz and quit talking too much. So all I did, there's one set finished. All I did was just skim the top basically. I think that's like 60 or 80 grit. And I just skim the top enough to knock basically the splinters and the burrs and stuff, to get it where it's smoother, so it'll fit up better together. But that set's done. That's one side of a window, the short window over there. So I'm gonna get the rest of them, just skim down a little bit. Got a little bit of burr still here, but that's fine. I skimmed a lot of it off. So anyway, get the rest of them done, and then we'll go to assembling them, nail them together. Got my shutter set out, ready to put some sealer on. I just rolled out some house wrap I had left. Got them blew off with the air hose real good, ready to put it on. What I ended up going with was this. It's Cabot Australian Timber Oil, and this is the natural because I don't want to stain the cedar any other color. It's already that red cedar color. I got this at my local Ace. So the reason I went with this, apparently according to the guy at the store, I mean, I trust the guy. My dad buys all his electrical, you know, stuff there for his business. My wife was needing a job not too long ago and applied there, and they were holding the job for her, but she ultimately got, you know, a job where she really wanted to work. But they, you know, that's the kind of people they, you know, relationship we have with them. You know, they were holding the job for my wife, so that's, you know, I trust him. So I went with this because he said it lasted a little longer. He's got some experience with it. He told me ready seal. I was like, you know, I need some oil base. I don't want water base. I want oil based sealer, clear sealer. And so he said ready seal, it's goof proof, slap it on, you know, it soaks in, you're good to go. If it needs another coat, okay. But this supposedly lasts a little longer, but it's more tedious to put on. You can't just let it dry and then come finish it later. You got to put it all on at one time, keep a wet edge, not slap too much on at one time, or if it's because it's where it's too thick, if it doesn't soak in, it'll glaze over and maybe flake off. So I went with that, because he said it lasts, you know, 6 or 7 years, and the other one lasts 4 or 5, 3, 4, whatever. I don't know. basically this stuff's supposed to last about 2 years longer than the other. And so that's ultimately the reason I went with it over the Ready Seal. I wanted as long as I could get without having to do maintenance to it. Well, originally I was gonna go with either some like spar polyurethane, not polyurethane, like spar urethane, which I'm gonna do that swing out there with, or some epoxy. But in a year's time, once it wears off, I'll have to sand it back down to, you know, recoat it. And I didn't really want to do that. This, at least, I can just pressure wash it, let it dry out good, and then put another coat on there. So, you know, that's why I ultimately went with this too, instead of one of those options. And I'll give y'all my thoughts on it when I get it on there. I'm going to put it on a little piece, a test piece about the size of that piece right there, and just see what I think about it. If it's good, I'll coat all of these, and I'll come back after the dry period, which is like 24 to 48 hours, and then I'll slap another coat on the test piece, a thin coat, and see if it takes it. If it does, I'll redo all these. But if I put one coat on, that's all it'll take, and it doesn't need a second coat. And then there you go, one coat, because it recommends on the can just one coat. But at one place or two, I saw some reviews. You know, it said either one or two coats. So I don't know. We'll test it and see. So this is what it looks like brushed on, you know, before it soaks in and dries. It's coming along good. Just put the third coat on there. And I'll flip it over in a few days after it's fully cured and do the back. Just do about 2 coats on there, because 2 coats look pretty decent on the front too, but front gets sit on, so I did another third coat. This is what I use. Spar urethane for sunlight, rain, and temperature changes. It's gonna be on the porch. It's covered, so rain ain't gonna get on it, but a little moisture in the air from the humidity and temperature. So I know this video wasn't really about this, but that's what it looked like before. Anyway, just thought I'd show that. And here's the shutters I've been working on. They've pretty much fully cured. It said 24 to 48 hours. 48 hours will be here in just a couple hours. So they're basically fully cured. I got that test piece out there. I'm gonna put a second coat on it. I got this black walnut mantle I had cut. I'm also gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it with epoxy. But I just want it to be as water repellent, basically, as possible. I like that one with all the knots in it. Looks really good. But yeah, here's a little more light on this one from the window. It's got a slight, like a live edge type deal there. So this is my test piece. I don't know if you can see it very well with the lighting. Up to here is one coat, and then I went back and I put some marks right there and right there. I put a second coat from here back, and then from between those marks, I went back with a towel and dabbed this middle section after like an hour and a half. And if you look at it, you can tell it down here is definitely got a little bit of a glaze to it, which according to the instructions you don't want, because eventually that will like can peel up over time and like miss your, I guess, finish up. I don't know. This middle section between here and here, well, I'm sorry, between here and right here, you can see just a slight bit of glazing. I mean, I could probably put it on, wait 30 minutes instead of an hour and a half, and dab it and be fine. And it wouldn't have that slight glaze look. You can't really tell on the camera like you can with that side, but it's got a little bit here too. And I don't really want that because I'm afraid it might peel. And that's a whole lot of brushing and time, and just, there's a whole lot of work just to let it sit for a little bit and then dab it off. There's not even, I mean, just for the amount that it's going to soak up on that second coat for 30 minutes, I'm not really, to me, it's not really worth going through all that trouble just for that little bit, which is less than what this is. Let me get the coat put on the back side, and I'll cut to where we're hanging them up. So there's a side-by-side look of what it looked like before, although this side is a little more purplish, like I mentioned earlier, but that's what it looks like. The way I'm applying this is the kind of brush I'm using right here. And I'm doing it the same way I did the front. And the front, y'all seen how it turned out. It turned out good. So just dipping it in there, dipping just the end of it, you know, end of the brush in there, shaking off the excess. And just kind of spread it out like that. And then after that, you just back brush it in real good, and that's it. Just like that. Nice and even. And that's it. That's all I do on the whole thing. You know, I've gotten all these done. I'm on my last two. And you can see it's already starting to soak in a lot of it. So that's how I'm putting it on here. I was real worried reading reviews or comments on it. People were saying how the application was difficult. You know, that's the main thing about it was the application difficulty. But I mean, I haven't had any issue with it. And I mean, I'm not a do this stuff every day type person, professional. You know, all the professional places I read, you know, like one guy does fences, you know, privacy fences. He said, you know, you back brush it. Everything says to back brush. But I mean, you put a good, you know, decent, not too thick, not too thin coat, and this stuff spreads a long way, so you can spread it for a while. But you know, you just put a decent coat, smooth it out, spread it out good. One coat like that, it'll soak in, it's good. Yeah, I saw the front. So I'm not real sure what all the application difficulty stuff was, but maybe there's just people who's never used any kind of, you know, never did anything like this, polyurethane or anything like that. So I don't know, this stuff, the consistency of it's pretty thin. It's thinner than like a polyurethane. Yeah, because it's just made of oil, and it's like 3 different types of oil, and it spreads pretty good. So anyway, I'll quit rambling on and get finished with this. I just want to show you how I spread it on, and you can see how it goes on. Now the only question would be longevity, really. We'll see how that goes. So I just finished up. Like I mentioned before, that stuff goes a long way. That stuff. Anyway, it goes a long way. I did the calculations on how much the coverage is because it tells you on the can. And I mean, these are about a foot wide by 4 foot. So counting front and back, that's 16 of those, whatever that square footage is, 4 by 1, you know, times 16. Then those are like 1 foot by 3 foot. But anyway, so I did the calculations, and it said I'd have a little bit left over if I got a gallon. I have a lot left over. I haven't used quite half of that gallon. So really I could have gotten by with 2 quarts. I don't know what the difference is in 2 quarts versus a gallon in price. I mean, may not be much more. So anyway, yeah, I'd rather have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. So that's how my swing turned out. You can see in the daylight, looks really good. Back side, I only put 3 on the front. I only put 2 on the back. Can't tell from here. You can tell looking at it. Also, I guess I'll throw in, we got the 10 put up out here. We're gonna do the same thing on the inside of the house, but I won't mention that because that's not what this video is about. Just thought I'd show it. So I'm getting ready to mount these. I got marked about a 1/4 inch everywhere. I have a 1/4 inch mark to keep it off the window all the way around on all of them. You can see right there. I went and pre-drilling my holes. I really wanted to pull the head in a little farther, kind of hide the head. These I drilled at a slight angle. This is the top. We're just gonna hang up here. So I drilled them at an angle to kind of hide the head, because I can see the top of it myself. I'm pretty tall. But I wanted to pull the head in just a little bit. Of course, it won't do it unless you screw it into the wall to pull in the head, but then that is going to pull it tight with the vinyl. And I'm really wanting to just seat it up against the vinyl. So, because you know, vinyl when it gets hot and cold, it expands and contracts. So I really want to just kind of keep it just seated up against it, just hold it there, kind of like basically just hanging it like a picture frame would do for the most part. So what I'm probably going to do is take a drill bit bigger, the size of the head of this, and just kind of countersink the outside a little bit so the head will go down in there just a hair and hide it a little bit better. So I got the shutters hung up all the way down, and I'll show you the ones on the side here in just a second. They look pretty good. What I ended up doing, like I was showing a little bit of before, I ended up drilling all of them at an angle, kind of like a perfect in between this piece and this piece, drilling down in there at an angle, all of them top and bottom too. After the first one, I did all of them angled in, and then I went back with a drill bit the same size, which is a bigger drill bit, the same size as the head of the screw. So it would recess it down there. That way the head would go down in the hole a little bit flush with the rest of the wood. Got up here last night, put them on a mark. I started one, because they're at an angle, it tries to move a little bit when you screw it in. So I started the top one, then went back and drilled the bottom one, and then just finished the other two on top, other two on bottom to keep it pretty straight up there without pushing it down or up, you know, at an angle. So that's what they look like. Few places, and it did a pretty good job hiding it. Like you can see here, just standing there. When I drilled the angle, it did pretty good, and recessed it. It did a good job of hiding the head there. You can hardly see it. And I'm tall, I'm 6'5", so if you're your average person who stands, you know, a few inches shorter than me, you won't even see it at all. And naturally, the bottom ones, you don't see it all either if you're standing, you know, right here. There's a few places that chipped. When I used the bigger drill bit, right there, it chipped a few places out, as you can see right there. So I'll probably just take like an artist type small paintbrush and dab it in the oil and just go back and put a little on there so it'll be the same color as the rest of it, where you won't notice it, because right here you notice the speck. So I go back and touch that up just so it'll blend all the color in and you won't see it. That's what these look like. So there you go. And what I did after I drilled the top out, I just started all my screws, top and bottom, you know, at the angles. That way, all we had to do was hold them up there and start the screws in, start the bottom one, then run them all the rest of them in without having to go back and get them all started. So you can see these. You know, obviously we had to get the ladder up there to do these. Dad would hold one up, and I had to get the screw started and finish screwing them in, but they look really good. And if I could go back, I would just went ahead and did the drilling to start with before I put the oil on them. So if you're gonna do something like these and you're gonna do kind of what I did, I would recommend doing that first. That way, once you oil them, it's the same color. You don't have to worry about that step. So I'm not gonna put that on video because that's the last of it. So they're done other than that. So I'm just gonna wrap this video up right here. Hope y'all enjoyed it, and maybe it gives somebody some inspiration for some shutters on their house.